Senator Roberts.
Thank you. Well, the minister's explanation is pitiful. Look at clause 1 of Senator Lambie and Senator Shoebridge's motion, subclause 4. Senator Wong failed to comply. She did not provide the names. Who has been consulted in relation to the release of the 20-year review of the Office of the Inspector-General of the Australian Defence Force report? Why is the government continuing to hide? This is the stuff that comes out of the south end of a northbound bull. This is the government's response. The claim isn't that there was anything classified in the 20-year review of the Inspector-General of the Australian Defence Force that Senator Lambie had been seeking. The claim the minister makes is that this report wasn't meant to be released because the government didn't want it to be released. Not that national security was under threat, not that there was classified information on it. The government just didn't want it to be released because that would be embarrassing and they would be asked to do something about it. That's not good enough. In order to produce documents that passes the Senate is constitutionally superior to acts of law. The government doesn't just get to decide, they can toss those orders in the bin. This is a rare occasion where we get to see the report, even though the government refused to hand it over. Credit must go to Senator Lambie and Senator Shoebridge for pushing this, and their officers for managing to get a copy of the report. Usually, as senators, we're just left in the dark. The government makes a public interest immunity claim and refuses to hand over anything. The government tells us that if this report was released, the sky would fall in. There would be an earthquake that shatters the public interest. Now, as senators, we're quite reasonable and responsible. We know that truth reinforces truth. While we might desperately want that information, we somewhat trust that the government hasn't lied to our face, and there's an actual risk to the public interest if the document was published. Yesterday and today shows once and for all, yet again, that the government is completely undeserving of that trust. The minister's explanation clearly isn't sufficient, and the current process for ordering documents is failing the Australian people and the senators seeking information on behalf of the people, information that belongs to the Australian people. To that end, I'll again be proposing a new additional way to handle orders for documents. When ministers make a public interest immunity claim, the claimed harm results from releasing the document to the public. There's a way to make sure this is a win-win. I'll go through it again. Making sure sensitive information isn't released, and at the same time senators can get the information needed to make informed decisions. The way to do this is to establish a process for senators to confidentially review ordered documents without releasing them to the public. This proposal may sound familiar to some. I first raised it in 2022, and this Senate supported a reference to the Procedures Committee for Inquiry. With respect to the senators on that committee, the response was lacking. The inquiry was given 4 months to report on the issue, did not seek any submissions, and produced the Procedure Committee's first report of 2023 at a towering 2 pages. While the committee declined to endorse the proposal, they did confirm it's feasible. The committee committed to further report on the process for the order of production of documents later in 2023. No report was delivered. Imagine that. Given the increased frequency of order for production of documents and the nearly blanket ban the government seems to be applying on transparency, it's time to deal with this issue again. This proposal is relatively simple. If the minister makes a public interest immunity claim, they don't have to release it to the public. They do have to release it to us, the senators, confidentially. A majority of the Senate can then decide whether the minister's claim is legitimate and the document deserves to be kept secret from the public. It's true that just like a normal order for production of document, the minister could refuse to hand over the documents to the committee. Since no harm can flow from public disclosure in this process, it would be apparent the only harm the government wants is to avoid embarrassment. That gives us a better reason to apply sanctions for non-compliance, which the Senate is rightly cautious to do under the current process. In making a public interest immunity claim, the minister is automatically required to nominate a standing committee to receive the document, and only senators will be allowed to review it. I will be submitting a notice of motion with some draft amendments to the standing orders for senators to consider over the break. I welcome their input and any suggestions to make these changes better. The Australian public deserve transparency, and as the Senate, the House of Review, we must deliver accountability on this government. The recent weeks in this chamber shows debacle after debacle after debacle. The government is in chaos. Australia has a chaotic government, and the people pay for that. Enlisted people and vets pay for it. The Senate's scrutiny will help the government to govern and reduce the chaos. We are willing to help you, and that's what our help will do. The people deserve the truth, openness and accountability.
Senator Roberts, your time has expired. Senator